I always thought my life was perfect until the day I died. Well, technically, until the day everyone thought I died. Funny how a casual morning hike can change everything. My name is Sonia, and 6 months ago, I was declared dead after falling from Carson Ridge Trail. The headlines were sympathetic. Local real estate agent missing, presumed dead. They never found my body, of course, because I wasn't dead. I was fighting for my life in a remote cabin, nursed back to health by an elderly couple who found me unconscious in the creek, several miles downstream from where I fell. "You're lucky to be alive," Martha had said, changing my bandages that first week. "The current must have carried you quite a ways." I had no phone, no ID, and a severe concussion that left me confused and disoriented for weeks. By the time I fully recovered, everyone I loved had already mourned me and moved on, or so I thought. I discovered the truth while using Martha's ancient desktop computer to check my email. There it was, a local news article about my grieving husband, Andre, announcing his engagement. The bride? My sister, Josephine. "Oh dear," Martha said, reading over my shoulder. "That's not right at all." Not right didn't begin to cover it. The engagement announcement was dated just 3 months after my disappearance. 3 months. The teacup I was holding shattered in my grip. "Careful now," Martha warned, helping me clean up the mess. "What are you going to do?" I stared at the screen, at the photo of Andre and Josephine looking so happy, so in love. "I'm going to crash a wedding." The next day, I convinced Martha's grandson to drive me into town. I needed to see it with my own eyes. Sitting in his beat-up truck outside my old house, I watched Andre and Josephine emerge, holding hands, laughing. "You sure you don't want me to call the police?" the grandson asked. I shook my head. "Not yet. I need to understand first." They looked so comfortable together, like they'd been a couple for years. Maybe they had been. The thought made my stomach turn. I called Maureen, my oldest friend, from a burner phone I'd purchased. She answered on the third ring. "Hello? Maureen, don't hang up. It's Sonia." Silence. Then, "This isn't funny. Whoever you are, remember when we were 16 and you helped me sneak out to see that terrible punk band? You wore my clothes because your parents would have killed you if they knew where you really were." More silence, then a choked sob. "Oh my God, Sonia, where are you?" "I can't tell you yet, but I need to know something." "How long?" "How long what?" "How long were they together before I died?" Maureen's sharp intake of breath told me everything. I don't know for sure. There were rumors, but I never wanted to believe." "How long, Maureen?" "I saw them together at the Blue Room about 8 months before your accident. They didn't see me." I wanted to tell you, but I had no proof, and Josephine swore it was a one-time thing when I confronted her. My free hand clenched into a fist. 8 months. While I was planning dinner parties and trying to start a family, my husband and sister were sneaking around behind my back. "Sonia, what are you going to do?" I watched through the window as Andre kissed Josephine goodbye in our driveway. My driveway. "I'm going to let them have their perfect wedding planning. Let them send out invitations, pick flowers, choose their cake. Let them think they've gotten away with everything. And then I'm going to show up at the church and give them exactly what they deserve." "Sonia, wait." I hung up. Through the windshield, I watched Josephine drive away in my car, the one Andre had reported sold after my death. She was wearing my favorite sweater too. "Take me back to the cabin," I told Martha's grandson. "I have planning to do." That night, I sat at Martha's kitchen table making lists. Guest lists, account numbers, passwords, everything I'd need. The old Sonia died on that mountain. But this new version, she was going to make damn sure karma caught up with everyone who betrayed her. "Just be careful, dear," Martha said, setting a fresh cup of tea beside me. "Revenge can consume you if you let it." I looked up from my notes, meeting her concerned gaze. "I'm not letting it consume me, Martha. I'm letting it fuel me. There's a difference." And there was. Because this wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice, about consequences. about making sure my dear sister and loving husband understood exactly what it felt like to have their perfect lives shattered into pieces. The wedding was in 3 months. I had work to do. The hardest part about coming back from the dead is staying hidden. I'd dyed my hair dark brown, started wearing glasses and chosen clothes that made me forgettable. Still, every time I walked downtown, I felt exposed. I needed information, and I knew exactly who could give it to me. Austin, Andre's best friend since college, always had a soft spot for me. More importantly, he had a guilty conscience. I found him at his usual spot, the corner table at Jimmy's Bar and Grill, nursing a beer after work. Taking a deep breath, I slid into the booth across from him. "Hello, Austin." His beer froze halfway to his mouth. The colour drained from his face as if he'd seen a ghost, which technically he had. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. "Sonia, keep your voice down." I glanced around the bar. "I need to talk to you." "But they said dead." "Yeah, not so much." I leaned forward. "Tell me everything, Austin. How long did you know?" He set his beer down with shaking hands. "I swear I didn't know before the accident. But you knew after, when they got together so quickly." He rubbed his face. "Look, Andre told me there had been something going on, but I thought it was over." "When?" "About a year before you disappeared. He said it was a mistake, that he ended it." Austin wouldn't meet my eyes. "Then after you were gone, it was like they didn't even try to hide it anymore." My fingers dug into the wooden table. "Did everyone know except me?" "No, God, no, but there were signs. The way they looked at each other at family gatherings, late-night phone calls. I confronted Andre once, told him to come clean, but you never told me." "I'm sorry, Sonia. I should have." A waitress approached our table. I pulled my baseball cap lower and ordered a whiskey neat. I was going to need it. "There's more," Austin said after the waitress left. "About your house, your money." "What about it?" "Andre used your life insurance payout to clear his gambling debts. Then he and Josephine, they're using what's left to plan this ridiculous wedding. Your money, Sonia. They're using your death to fund their new life together." The whiskey arrived. I downed it in one go. "Show me proof." Austin pulled out his phone, pulled up some photos, bank statements, text messages, evidence of their betrayal laid bare in pixels and numbers. "I kept everything," he said. "In case, I don't know, in case the truth ever came out." "Well, it's about to." I showed him the wedding invitation I'd swiped from Maureen's mail. "St. Michael's Church, 3 weeks from now." "Sonia, what are you planning?" "Justice." I stood up, then paused. "One more thing. My mother, is she really okay with all this?" Austin's expression said it all. "Ren, she's been helping them plan the wedding. Says it's what you would have wanted, for them to be happy." The betrayal hit like a physical blow. My own mother blessing this farce? Thank you, Austin, for everything. I turned to leave, then looked back. "Don't tell anyone you saw me. Not if you want to see how this plays out." "Wait." He grabbed my arm. "There's something else you should know about the day you went hiking." My heart stopped. "What about it?" "Andre knew about that trail, how dangerous it was after rain. He's the one who suggested you go there that morning." The implications hit me like ice water. Had my accident been arranged? "Do you have proof of that too?" Austin nodded slowly. "Text messages from that morning, between him and Josephine. Send them to this number." I handed him a piece of paper with my burner phone number. "Everything you have, every screenshot, every statement." "What are you going to do with it all?" I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I'm going to give them the wedding day they deserve." Outside, I walked through the rain, my mind racing. If Andre had deliberately sent me to that trail, knowing how treacherous it was, this wasn't just about an affair anymore. This was attempted murder. My phone buzzed. Austin had already sent the files. I opened the first text message thread and felt my blood run cold. Andre. "Trail should be slick enough after the rain. Make sure she goes alone." Josephine. "Are you sure about this?" Andre, it's the only way we can be together. Trust me. I closed the messages, my hands shaking. They hadn't just betrayed me, they'd tried to kill me. And now they were about to learn the hard way that karma has perfect aim. Meeting Maureen in person was harder than I expected. We chose a quiet coffee shop 2 towns over where no one would recognize us. When she walked in and saw me, she burst into tears. "I can't believe it's really you," she said, hugging me tight. "I thought I was going crazy when you called." "I'm sorry for disappearing on you." I gestured to the corner booth, but I needed time to gather evidence. Evidence? Maureen's eyes widened. "You mean about Andre and Josephine?" "About everything." I pulled out my phone, showed her the text messages Austin had sent. Her hand flew to her mouth as she read. "Oh my God, they planned it? The accident?" "Looks that way." I took a sip of my coffee. "But I need more. That's why I called you." Before Maureen could respond, a man in a dark suit approached our table. My heart jumped until I saw Maureen relax. "Sonia, this is Detective Nathaniel Murphy. He's been investigating your case." I tensed. "Maureen, you didn't—" "It's okay," Nathaniel said, sliding into the booth. "Your secret's safe. I've been suspicious of your husband and sister from the start, but I couldn't prove anything. And now?" He pulled out a small recorder. "Now I'd like to hear your story. Everything that happened that day and why you stayed hidden." I told them about the hiking trip, the fall, Martha and her family. When I got to the part about discovering Andre and Josephine's engagement, Maureen reached for my hand. "There's something else you should know," she said, "about your mother." "That she's supporting them, I already know." "No, it's worse." Maureen glanced at Nathaniel, who nodded. "She's been helping them sell off your things. Your jewellery, your art collection, everything you inherited from Grandma Rose." The coffee cup cracked in my grip. "She what?" "Your mother claims it's what you would have wanted," Nathaniel said, making notes. "But legally, without a body and a death certificate, those sales could be considered theft." "The wedding's being paid for with my money, isn't it?" Maureen nodded miserably. "Your life insurance, your inheritance, everything. Wren's even giving them Grandma Rose's beach house as a wedding gift." "The hell she is." I stood up abruptly. "I need to see her." "Sonia, wait." Nathaniel grabbed my arm. "We need to be strategic about this. I can help you, but you have to trust me." "Why should I trust anyone?" "Because I've been building a case against Andre for months. Financial fraud, insurance fraud, and now, attempted murder. But if you reveal yourself too soon, they might destroy evidence." I sat back down, my hands shaking. "What do you suggest?" "Let me bring in a friend from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. Between the insurance fraud and the illegal sales of your property, we can build a solid case. But we need time." "The wedding's in 3 weeks." "Perfect," Nathaniel smiled. "Just enough time to get everything in order. In the meantime, I suggest you pay your mother a visit, carefully." "I'll go with you," Maureen offered. "Wren still has her weekly bridge game tonight. The house will be empty." 2 hours later, I stood in my childhood home, using the key Maureen had copied years ago. The place looked different. Photos of Andre and Josephine covered the walls where my pictures used to be. "Look at this," Maureen called from my mother's study. "Wedding plans." I followed her voice and froze. The study had been transformed into Wedding Central. Seating charts, vendor contracts, and a massive mood board covered every surface. In the centre, a photo of my sister in my grandmother's vintage wedding dress, the one that was supposed to be mine. "She's wearing my dress," I whispered. "In my church, paid for with my money." "Sonia," my mother's voice echoed from the hallway. "Is someone there?" Maureen grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the back door, but I shook her off. It was time. I stepped into the hallway, facing my mother for the first time in 6 months. She dropped her bridge club purse, her face going white. "Hello, Mother. Like what you've done with the place." "This isn't... You're not..." She stumbled backward. "You're dead." Surprise. I picked up one of the wedding invitations from the hall table. Though I have to say I'm hurt I didn't get an invitation to my own husband's wedding. "Sonia, I can explain. Save it." I held up my phone, showing her the text messages. I know everything, and in 3 weeks everyone else will too. I walked past her, pausing at the door. Oh, and Mother, that beach house you're planning to give them, it's still legally mine. Maybe remember that before you start giving away things that don't belong to you. The last thing I saw was her collapsing into a chair, her perfect world crumbling around her. Good. It was just the beginning. Detective Nathaniel's office was cluttered with case files, but the one he placed in front of me was the thickest. Your husband's been busy, he said, opening the folder. Look at these bank transfers. I leaned forward, scanning the documents. These are from my personal accounts. Accounts he shouldn't have had access to after your death. But somehow money kept moving. Nathaniel pointed to a series of transactions, all to offshore accounts, then filtered back through shell companies. For the wedding, that's just the beginning. He pulled out more papers. We found something interesting when we dug deeper, your grandmother's will. My head snapped up. What about it? The version filed with the court isn't the original. We found the real one in your grandmother's safety deposit box. He slid both documents across the desk. Notice anything? I compared them side by side. These are completely different. This one leaves everything to me, but the filed version splits everything between you and Josephine, Nathaniel finished. The filed version is a forgery. How? Your mother had power of attorney after your grandmother's stroke. She could have made the switch before filing. My hands clenched the papers. So my own mother stole my inheritance. And now she's helping Andre and Josephine sell off assets they technically don't own. He leaned back. We've got them on fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. The attempted murder charge is trickier, but... A knock interrupted us. Maureen burst in, looking frantic. You need to see this, she said, thrusting her phone at me. It was a social media post from Josephine. Final dress fitting. Can't wait to honor my sister's memory by wearing her dream dress on my special day. Wedding countdown. A love wins. The photo showed her in my grandmother's dress, altered and modernized. My dress, my inheritance, my life. I'm going to be sick, I muttered. There's more, Maureen said. They're planning to announce at the wedding that they're expecting. The room spun. What? I overheard Josephine telling your mother yesterday she's 3 months pregnant. 3 months. The math wasn't hard. They'd conceived their child while planning their wedding with my money. I want to destroy them, I said quietly. Not just legally. I want them to feel what I felt. Nathaniel exchanged looks with Maureen. We have enough for arrests, but if you want maximum impact... The wedding, I finished. Let them have their perfect day. Then take everything. It's risky, he warned. If they suspect anything... They won't. I stood up. Because my mother's going to help us. What? How? She has a choice to make. I gathered the will documents. Help us, or go down with them. That evening, I waited in my mother's darkened kitchen. When she came home and flipped on the lights, I was sitting at the table. Jesus, she clutched her chest. Stop doing that. Sit down, Mother. We need to talk about Grandma Rose's will. Her face went pale. I don't know what you... I slapped both versions on the table. Want to explain this? Where did you get those? Doesn't matter. What matters is what happens next. I pushed the real will toward her. You're going to help me or I'm taking this to the DA. You wouldn't. I'm your mother. And Josephine's my sister. Didn't stop either of you from trying to kill me. I didn't know about that. She collapsed into a chair. I swear, Sonia, I only found out after they said you were dead. But you helped them anyway. They were in love. I thought it was fate. I laughed bitterly. Fate? They planned my death, Mother, and you helped them profit from it. She started crying. I didn't move to comfort her. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to keep planning this wedding. Make it perfect. Spare no expense. It's my money anyway, right? What are you going to do? I'm going to give my sister exactly what she deserves. The question is, which side will you be on when it happens? She stared at the wills for a long moment. What do you need me to do? First, get me a copy of every financial document you have. Then, I want to know every detail about this wedding, every vendor, every guest, every speech. And if I do this, then maybe, just maybe, you won't spend your retirement in prison. As I left, I heard her on the phone. Josephine, darling, I've had the most wonderful idea for your wedding entrance. Perfect. Everything was falling into place. In 2 weeks, my sister would have her dream wedding, and I would have my revenge. I pulled out my phone to text Nathaniel. Mother's in. Time to set the stage. The response came quickly. Ready when you are. This will be one hell of a wedding. The wedding rehearsal was in full swing when I slipped into the church balcony. From my hidden vantage point, I watched my replacement life unfold below. No, no, my mother called out. Josephine, darling, you need to pause longer at the third pew. That's where the photographers will be. Josephine, wearing a sundress that barely concealed her growing belly, practiced her walk again. Andre stood at the altar, beaming at her like she was his whole world, just like he used to look at me. They seem nervous, Maureen whispered beside me. Especially Josephine. Good. I adjusted my binoculars. Who's that man talking to Andre? New investor in his real estate business. They're using your life insurance money to start a development company. My phone buzzed. Nathaniel. FBI team in position. All accounts flagged. Ready when you are. Below, Josephine was having what looked like a heated discussion with my mother. I can't do this, I heard her say. It doesn't feel right. Don't be ridiculous, my mother hissed. Everything's perfect. But the dress. Wearing Sonia's dress. What if what? Andre joined them. Babe, we talked about this. It's what Sonia would have wanted. I almost laughed out loud. Instead, I texted Austin. You're up. Right on cue, Austin burst through the church doors looking appropriately flustered. Andre, we have a problem with the permits for the new development. Andre's face darkened. Not now. The bank's threatening to pull funding. We need to deal with this today. Fine. Andre kissed Josephine's cheek. I'll handle this. You finish the rehearsal. After they left, Josephine sank into a pew, head in her hands. My mother patted her shoulder awkwardly. I'll get you some water, she said, hurrying away. Perfect. I slipped down the back stairs and into the sanctuary, staying in the shadows. Josephine was alone, muttering to herself, This is wrong, this is all wrong. Having second thoughts, sister dear. She whirled around, but I stayed hidden behind a pillar. Who's there? Just your conscience, telling you what you already know, that karma's coming. Sonia, her voice cracked. That's impossible. Is it? Like it was impossible for you to sleep with my husband? To help plan my accident? No, you're dead. This isn't real. I stepped into a shaft of coloured light from the stained glass windows. Her face went ashen. Surprise. She stumbled backward, crossing herself. You're not real. You're not real. Oh, I'm very real. And so is all the evidence of what you and Andre did. We never meant to kill me, to steal my inheritance, to get pregnant with my husband's baby while I was supposedly dead. She pressed her hands to her stomach protectively. How did you? I know everything, Josephine. Every text, every secret meeting, every penny you stole. Please, she whispered. I'm sorry. We can fix this. Fix this? I laughed coldly. Like you fixed my brakes before suggesting that hiking trail? Her eyes widened. That was Andre's idea. I tried to stop him. Those texts say otherwise. I moved closer. But don't worry. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to promise you something. What? The perfect wedding day you deserve. I smiled and she shrank back. Sleep well, sister. I'll see you at the altar. I melted back into the shadows as my mother returned. Josephine was hyperventilating. Mom, I saw her. Sonia's alive. Don't be ridiculous, my mother said, but her hands shook as she handed over the water. You're just nervous. No, she was here. She knows everything. Josephine, stop it. Pull yourself together. The wedding's tomorrow. I watched from the balcony as my mother led Josephine away, both of them shaken. My phone buzzed again. Nathaniel. Andre took the bait. He's trying to move money between accounts right now. Me. Perfect. Let him dig his grave deeper. Maureen touched my arm. Are you sure about tomorrow? We could still do this quietly, legally. No. They wanted a spectacular wedding. They'll get one. I showed her my phone. Look what Austin just sent. The photo showed Andre in his office, frantically shredding documents. Too late. We already had copies of everything. Tomorrow, I said, everyone will know exactly who they really are. And then they'll lose everything. Just like I did. I stood up, taking a last look at the church where my sister would almost marry my husband. But first, I need to get ready. I have a wedding to crash. As we left, I heard Josephine's voice floating from the parking lot. I'm telling you, she was here. She's alive. Impossible, my mother insisted. Ghosts aren't real. I smiled. By this time tomorrow, they'd wish I really was a ghost. The night before the wedding, I sat in Maureen's guest room staring at my grandmother's jewellery box, the one my mother had forgotten to sell. Everything's ready, Maureen said, entering with 2 glasses of wine. Nathaniel has teams at every exit. Austin planted the documents. Even your mother came through with the seating chart changes. And the video. Queued up and ready. Though, she hesitated. Are you sure about this? It's going to destroy them completely. I opened the jewellery box, pulling out my grandmother's sapphire ring. They tried to kill me, Maureen. They stole my life, my money, my future. And tomorrow, they're going to know exactly how that feels. My phone rang, Josephine's number. We both stared at it. Answer it, Maureen urged. Find out what she wants. I put it on speaker. Hello, sister. Sonia? Her voice was slurred. I knew it was you in the church. I'm not crazy. Having pre-wedding jitters. Please. She started crying. Don't do this. Whatever you're planning tomorrow, don't. Why shouldn't I? Because I'm pregnant. Please think about your niece or nephew. I gripped the phone tighter. You mean the baby you conceived with my husband while I was supposedly dead? I love him, Sonia. We never meant to hurt you. Really? Those text messages about the hiking trail suggest otherwise. Silence, then. That was Andre's idea. He said it would look like an accident, that we could be together without anyone judging us. And you went along with it. I was weak, stupid, but I've been paying for it every day. Her voice cracked. I see you everywhere. In my dreams, in mirrors, in empty rooms. I can't escape what we did. Good. I twisted my grandmother's ring. Then tomorrow will feel very familiar. What are you going to do? Just give you the wedding day you deserve. Sleep well, Josephine. I hung up as she started pleading again. Maureen watched me carefully. She sounds terrified. She should be. I stood up, walking to the garment bag hanging on the door. Inside was my grandmother's original wedding dress. The real one, not the altered version Josephine had. How did you get that? Maureen gasped. Martha's granddaughter works at the dry cleaners. She switched them last week. I ran my hand over the vintage lace. Josephine will find out tomorrow when she tries to put on her altered version. My phone buzzed with a text from Nathaniel. Andre just tried to empty all accounts. Everything's frozen. He's panicking. Good. Let him panic. Let him feel trapped. Just like I did at the bottom of that ravine. Another text this time from Austin. He's drinking heavily at Jimmy's, talking about running. Should we stop him? Maureen asked, reading over my shoulder. No. Let him show up hungover. It'll make everything better. A knock at the door made us jump. It was my mother, looking haunted. Josephine's hysterical, she said, entering without invitation. She's threatening to call off the wedding. And that would be bad because if she does, we lose our chance. The FBI needs them to attempt to use those accounts tomorrow, to prove intent. I smiled coldly. Don't worry, Mother. She'll show up. Her pride won't let her do anything else. Are you sure about this? About destroying them so publicly? Like you were sure about forging Grandma's will? She flinched. I've given you everything you asked for, all the documents, all the proof. To save yourself. To make things right. She stepped closer. Sonia, please, show some mercy. Mercy? I opened my phone, playing her the recording of Andre and Josephine planning my accident. Did they show me mercy? She listened, face growing paler with each word. When it finished, she sat heavily on the bed. I didn't know. I never thought. Now you do. And tomorrow so will everyone else. She stood slowly. What time should I be at the church? 10 a.m. Wear something festive. After all, it's your daughter's wedding day. After she left, Maureen touched my arm. Are you really ready for tomorrow? I looked at my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't the same person who went hiking 6 months ago. She was stronger, harder. I'm ready. I picked up my grandmother's sapphire ring. Tomorrow they'll learn what it feels like to lose everything in front of everyone they know. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Josephine. Please, I'm begging you, don't do this. I didn't reply. Instead, I sent a group text to Nathaniel, Austin, and my mother. Everything proceeds as planned. Tomorrow we give them exactly what they deserve. Then I turned off my phone and went to bed. I needed to be well rested for my sister's big day. The church bells struck noon as chaos erupted in the bridal suite. This isn't my dress! Josephine's scream echoed through the halls. Someone switched it! I watched through a crack in the door as she held up the original unaltered wedding dress, exactly as our grandmother had worn it. But that's impossible, my mother said, feigning confusion. We had it altered last week. I can't wear this. I'm pregnant, for God's sake. Right on cue, several guests passing by stopped to stare. The pregnancy wasn't supposed to be public knowledge yet. My phone buzzed. Nathaniel. Andre's here. Drunk, belligerent. Perfect. The wedding coordinator rushed past, looking frantic. 15 minutes until the ceremony. I slipped into position behind the church organ as the guests filed in. Andre swayed slightly at the altar, his best man Austin gripping his arm to keep him steady. Everything's falling apart, Josephine sobbed from the entrance. This isn't how it was supposed to be. The music started. Despite everything, the guests stood, turning to watch as my sister began her walk down the aisle in a hastily found backup dress. She looked terrified. The priest began his speech about love and honor. I caught my mother's eye from my hiding spot. She gave an almost imperceptible nod. If anyone has reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, the priest intoned, speak now or forever hold your peace. I stepped out from behind the organ. I have a few reasons. The gasps were deafening. Andre stumbled backward. Josephine dropped her bouquet. Miss me. I walked down the center aisle, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was murder. This isn't possible, Andre slurred. You're dead. We made sure. He caught himself, but too late. The church erupted in whispers. Made sure? I smiled. Like you made sure about the hiking trail, the loose rocks, the cut brake line on my car that thankfully failed before I reached the mountain. Sonia, please, Josephine whispered. Not here. Why not here? It's my church too. My dress you tried to wear. My money paying for all of this. I gestured around. My husband you're trying to marry. The doors opened. Nathaniel entered with 2 FBI agents. Speaking of money, I continued, Andre, would you like to explain to everyone how you've been spending my life insurance payout? Or should we ask the FBI Financial Crimes Unit? Andre bolted for the side door. The agents caught him before he made it halfway. And Josephine? I turned to my sister who had sunk to her knees. Should we tell everyone about the text messages? About how you helped plan my accident? I never meant. Show them, I called out. The video screen meant for wedding photos flickered to life, displaying their text messages in giant format. The crowd gasped as they read. My mother stood up. Sonia, that's enough. Enough? Like how you forged Grandma's will? Don't worry, Mother, the FBI has questions for you too. The agents were now leading Andre back in handcuffs. Josephine vomited into a decorative plant. You see, I addressed the stunned guests, this was supposed to be my happy ending. My husband, my house, my family. but they tried to kill me for it instead. We can explain, Andre shouted. Oh, you'll have plenty of time to explain. To the FBI, to the DA, to a jury. I walked up to Josephine. How's that karma feeling now, sister? She looked up at me, mascara streaking her face. I'm pregnant. I know, and your baby will know exactly what kind of people their parents are. The church was in complete chaos now. Guests were filming everything on their phones. Reporters who'd been tipped off were rushing in. My mother had fainted. Take them, Nathaniel ordered. The agents moved forward to arrest Josephine. Wait. I held up my hand. One last thing. I walked up to Andre as the agents held him. Remember how you always said I was too trusting, too naive? I pulled out my grandmother's sapphire ring. Turns out, I learned from the best about betrayal. I dropped the ring in the collection plate. Consider it a donation. God knows you both need the prayers. As they were led away, Maureen appeared at my side. Was it worth it? I watched my sister and husband being escorted to police cars, my mother being fanned back to consciousness, the shocked guests posting everything on social media. They tried to kill me and steal my life. I straightened my jacket. I'd say this was exactly what they deserved. The church bells rang again, marking the hour. Somewhere in the chaos, the wedding cake toppled over. A perfect metaphor for the day. Come on, I told Maureen. I believe there's an open bar at the reception. Seems a shame to waste it. Behind us, karma had finally caught up with everyone who'd wronged me. And it was beautiful. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters as Andre and Josephine were led out in handcuffs. I watched from across the street, sipping coffee with Nathaniel and Maureen. 15 years each, Nathaniel said, plus full restitution of all stolen assets. The DA said it was one of the easiest convictions she's ever gotten, Maureen added, especially after Andre tried to blame everything on Josephine. I watched my sister stumble on the steps. Her baby bump was more visible now, but prison uniforms weren't particularly flattering. What about my mother? House arrest and supervised probation, Nathaniel checked his notes. She'll have to sell her house to pay back the estate she defrauded. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Someone had leaked Andre's prison interview. He still claims he loves you, Maureen said, reading over my shoulder. Says everything he did was because he couldn't handle choosing between you and Josephine. Funny way of showing love. I deleted the alert. Has Josephine said anything? Just that she's sorry over and over, Maureen hesitated. She's asked to see you. No. I stood up watching the police cars pull away. She lost that right when she helped plan my murder. Speaking of planning, Nathaniel pulled out an envelope. The FBI finished processing your accounts. Everything's been restored, plus damages. I opened the envelope. The number made me blink. That's everything they stole, plus interest, plus civil penalties. He smiled. You're a wealthy woman, Sonia. What will you do now? Maureen asked. Before I could answer, Austin jogged up to our table. You need to see this, he said, handing me his phone. Your mother's giving an interview. I watched as my mother, looking frail under house arrest, spoke to a reporter. I failed both my daughters, she said. I chose the wrong side, believed the wrong stories. If Sonia never forgives me, I'll understand. Turn it off. I handed the phone back. I've heard enough apologies. She's being transferred to a minimum security facility next week, Austin said. The doctors say her health is failing. That's not my problem. Sonia, Maureen touched my arm. You won your revenge. Maybe now it's time to... To what? Forgive them. Move on. I stood up. They tried to kill me. They stole my life. Some things don't deserve forgiveness. No, she agreed. But maybe they deserve understanding. Not for them. For you. I walked to the courthouse steps, remembering the day I discovered their betrayal. The anger had kept me going, kept me focused. But now, I'm tired, I admitted as Maureen joined me. Tired of being angry, of looking over my shoulder. Then stop. She squeezed my hand. You've got your life back, your money, your freedom. Don't let them take up any more space in your head. My phone buzzed again. A message from Martha, my rescuer. Cabin's always open if you need peace. Peace. What a concept. I bought a ticket, I said suddenly. To where? New Zealand. That hiking trip I always wanted to take. I smiled. Seems fitting to start over where I'm supposed to have died. Running away? No. Moving forward. I watched another police car pull away. They'll be in prison. Mother will be under house arrest. The money's back where it belongs. Time to write my own story. Without revenge? Without letting them control the narrative? I pulled out my grandmother's sapphire ring, retrieved from the church collection plate. This was never about the money or the inheritance. It was about truth. And now the truth's out there. Exactly. I slipped the ring on. I think Grandma Rose would approve. Nathaniel approached with more papers. Just need your signature on these final statements. As I signed, a commotion erupted at the courthouse entrance. Josephine was being brought back in for something they'd forgotten. Our eyes met across the plaza. "Sonia," she called out. "Please, I need to tell you." "Save it," I turned away. "I'm done listening to your stories." The guards led her inside. I handed the papers back to Nathaniel. "That's it," he said. "Case closed." "Thank you. All of you." I looked at my friends, the ones who'd helped me get justice. I couldn't have done this alone. "What now?" Austin asked. I checked my watch. "Now I have a plane to catch. There's a mountain in New Zealand with my name on it." "Be careful," Maureen hugged me. "Some trails are dangerous." "I know," I smiled, "but this time I'm choosing my own path." I walked away from the courthouse, leaving behind the revenge that had consumed me. Ahead lay mountains to climb, trails to explore, and a life reclaimed not just through justice, but through the power of truth. This time, no one would write my ending but me.